right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It is your girl, Brie Undeniably. We're here for my new speaker series, Deep Conversations with Dope Individuals. I am here with such an awesome individual right now. I'm so excited to introduce her, and we have some real life, real time entrepreneurial things to talk about that kind of happened in the midst of all this. So I'm so pleased to introduce Heather DeSantis. Heather is a Forbes under 30 nominee and former Miss Ohio International, who is the founder and CEO of Publicity for Good. She is one of the leading female millennial publicists of her generation with a fresh take on life, which is evident with her choosing to run her agency nomadically from her airstream. You can actually, I'll send you to where you can find Heather after. First, I'm going to introduce her. Heather, welcome. So happy you can be here.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, as I always introduce all of my guests, and what we do in the counseling community is we like to meet our clients where they're at. So, what that means, it's really just a way of you telling us a little bit about your story and telling us, how we ended up here right now on the podcast. So, just introduce yourself for everyone.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of Publicity for Good. It's a purpose-driven PR firm. And what's really cool is when my boyfriend Austin got out of the Navy, we decided we're gonna travel the country. We watched every YouTube video, we did a lot of research, and we decided to get an Airstream. That's one of those really cool silver travel trailers that you see, super retro.
Yes.
And we got an Airstream. We traveled the country. We visited almost every state with mountains.
Wow.
From
Okay.
there, we made a spreadsheet. Um, and really, wherever we ended up, we wanted to know, did they have snow? How much snow? How much sun? Do they have tornadoes? What was it like to be an entrepreneur? Do we feel like we can make a difference? Just really all of those things. And then the city we chose was Asheville, North Carolina.
Awesome.
We didn't want to live in a big city. I really, really wanted a small town. So then we traveled in our Airstream, all the small towns in North Carolina surrounding Asheville. And then we ended up in Morganton. It's about an hour and 10 minutes from Charlotte, 45, 50 minutes from Asheville in the mountains. And it's perfect. And what's incredible is during the pandemic, we were in the Airstream all the time, living on Wi-Fi on hotspots. And during the pandemic, that was our first $1 million year. And I feel so grateful. And I think a lot of it had to do with having to thrive, having to work harder to keep our team. And that, I would say, intentionality and love and grit has just transformed into what we're doing.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many things you're touching on here, so many touch points I want to jump into. But I mean, first of all, congratulations. You said that was your first $1 million year. Everyone
Yeah,
listening, we're talking about like full scale entrepreneurship here. I mean, this is like the value of having you on here is absolutely incredible. So congratulations for that,
thank
because
you.
that's really, really amazing. Let's talk about, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Tell everyone. First of all, I don't even think that I sometimes I just jump into it because I'm so excited to introduce the guests. But I know that you and I talked about this a little bit beforehand, but a lot of this speaker series right now, it's talking about entrepreneurship. But the three sort of touch points I really want to get to are development, decision making, and dedicating your life to your purpose. And
Mm.
everything in between there, I think that there's so much to be learned, so much to learn in that, and so much that you could bring your story into for people to understand maybe what those things were for you. But let's just bring it back to the seed of Publicity for Good. I mean,
Mhm.
what was the first moment you decided you wanted to do something, or even before that, how you really got into entrepreneurship and wanting to build something for yourself?
Yeah, so I was a Girl Scout until I was 18, and I sold the most amount of Girl Scout cookies. So at the core of my heart was always community service and giving back. My dad and uncle were very successful entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
and they both passed away. My dad died of lung cancer my senior year of high school, and my uncle's net worth was about 50 million, but extremely humble.
Yep.
Like he wore sweatpants. When he passed away, he was born in sweatpants. Not fancy, just building a business and being a good, humble, simple person. Wow. And I think that's incredible, just to stay true to who you are in your roots.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even when you become more successful.
100%.
But that was the root of it.
Okay.
They were entrepreneurs.
Okay.
They passed away. Well, I need to be an entrepreneur for legacy.
Absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that piece of your story. And so sorry to hear about the passing of both of them, but it seems like they passed something really incredible to you, which was, that entrepreneurial spirit, maybe that grit, that staying true to yourself. So then bring me to Publicity for Good. How did that end up becoming what you knew you were going to really start working on?
Yeah, so I was a communication major in college, and then I did an intensive at Georgetown, and I studied philanthropy and giving back.
Okay.
And I worked at an ad agency doing PR for like 3.5 years. But when you work at an ad agency, it's 12-hour days, extremely stressful. No one ate, way too much stress, and way too much pressure.
Wow, yeah, I can imagine. I can only imagine. I'm thinking like Mad Men. I don't know if you've ever seen the show
Mad Men. Totally.
But that's
kind of why I built my agency. We're like anti-Mad Men. That was really the vision behind it. But when I started my company, I named it after myself. That was like, most people think they start a company, they name it after themselves.
Right.
But what happens when you're 10 years in and you have a family and you don't want it to be dependent on you? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like, if you're a therapist, it's probably different because it's one-on-one. But if you have like a practice or something, you want people to get served by more than one person. It's so hard when people think they're only going to get to work with Bree. There's only so much energy that you have,
Right. I totally understand that. Wow. So for you, that kind of transitioned into like building the name and so Publicity for Good. I mean, just hearing the title, it speaks volumes, but let's hear about that specifically.
Yeah. So Publicity for Good, really it's the ethos of working with brands that are purpose driven. Okay. And working with brands that are owned by founders. Okay. Working with brands that don't necessarily sell out and get bought by like Pepsi or Coke or Unilever. Like these people started companies because there was a problem. It's the mom who did a Kickstarter campaign because she was having trouble using coffee creamer, and then she starts Nut Pods. It's just those stories of people making products, and they make products because they need them, and then from there, it really scales.
I love that. So there really is like a, down to like the well-being of people and why people are developing products. And then you get to sort of enhance that development with what you're doing. It's incredible.
And I think when you know what you're supposed to be doing, you get obsessed and it's on your heart and you can't stop thinking about it.
I think that is so spot on. And I know that, you and I have spoke about this just a little bit previously, but I feel like that is the place where I'm in now and how much I'm loving doing this and talking to people about their story and really like bringing that to a larger audience. I'm feeling like I've finally found the niche where, I can just keep going because
that's incredible.
Yeah. Just because it's like, you're doing something that is outside of yourself. Very similar to like what you said with the title of or the name of your company. It wasn't just going to be the Heather DeSantis company. It was going to be like, this is for others. And I think that's so awesome. I can definitely share in that feeling of it being on your heart and you were just really wanting to push forward with it.
Think about the times too where you've tried something and it just, you feel like you're pushing so hard, but nothing's happening. Like I started a company years ago called Romp Away, and I was so excited. And I would buy clothes from a thrift store, and then I would sew them with my mom, and I'd make rompers for upcycled clothing, and I'd make headbands. And I got them in 2 little local stores in my hometown, but I made maybe like $500. But it was so much work. Like I didn't enjoy sewing. I like the idea of marketing a product and talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
but there was such a block from me doing it because I don't think I was supposed to do it. Versus doing what I'm doing now, it's hard,
Right.
but it's like you're in flow. And like
Right.
these crazy miracle things happen all the time that you're like, wow, like, you know what I mean? It's just crazy.
So, what was there like a moment in time, like after Publicity for Good started to take off a little bit? Like, was there this moment for you where all of a sudden, like everything just changed, or was it a slow build for you, or a steady build? It might not have been slow; it might have been right from the get go. But was there like a pivotal moment, or was it a consistent build?
I would definitely say the pandemic.
Really?
And
Okay.
the
Wow.
pandemic, and then I'd also say like really niching down
Mm-hmm.
and saying, calling out your clients and saying, this is who we serve.
Okay. All right. So really kind of finding that space that, because I guess you can't be so broad. You can't serve everyone. So who is it that you are very directly serving and really marketing your service to those clients?
Yeah. And being able to say no.
Okay.
Even if you have a financial goal for that month and you say no to that one client,
Mm-hmm.
every single time miracles happen and that one person comes in that's a dream client and we always reach our goal.
Right.
Even on the months where I like hold my breath and clients always pay the last week and I get stressed, like, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to cover payroll? It always works out, like every single time.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. I think that is just like it's so incredible just to like hear, it comes across in your spirit just hearing about you speak about your business too, which is super cool. Um so
But
what
I think too,
Yeah.
like when your business is aligned, like from a holistic, energetic, universal God, like connection, like you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I think about like your parents and like everything that's has like gotten you where you're supposed to be.
Mhm.
Like I'm excited about generating wealth, but think about how our potential kids' lives are going to be so much even crazier, cool, and free because we're entrepreneurs.
I love that. It's so true too. It's like it's one of those things where it's outside of yourself. And
Yes.
I want you to tell us a little bit more because I think you hit on something so important with everything being aligned. Like that, you said like holistic spiritually, like just everything kind of like being aligned with maybe
Yeah.
whether it be purpose or mission. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that because I think that's something that can't necessarily be taught.
No.
But you have to hear the stories of how it's happening so that way you can figure out how to align things for yourself.
It's interesting. I mean, I've done a lot of inner work,
Mm-hmm.
like reading the Bible and then, A Course in Miracles and just like all those different things that are really going to inspire your life. But I feel fortunate that I've had a lot of struggles, like losing my dad to cancer,
Mm-hmm.
having months in the business years ago where couldn't even pay rent.
Wow.
So I think those struggles are part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like I can't, like, I really believe that's a part of the process.
it is.
And getting your teeth kicked in is a part of the process. I really do.
Right. Right.
And when you get older, you get more mature. And the other thing, too, everything takes time. So I've been doing this since 2016.
Okay.
So I'm like, if I just keep doing what I'm doing and stay consistent, can you imagine what it's going to look like 5 years from now? Can you imagine where you're going to be, Brie, when everyone knows your name and it's been 5 years in? It's going to be easier because time is a gift for you because you've been doing it consistently with the compound effect.
Absolutely. That consistency too is a pattern. I'm telling you, it comes across in every single one of my conversations, on top
Mm,
of the fact that struggling, that like real like getting kicked down, coming up with your back against the wall and it just being really like really difficult times, that is where the growth is happening. And those like you're hitting on those 2 points and I feel like in every conversation I'm having, those are two of the major key components that people are continuing to touch upon. the consistency that, you're going to get in what you put out. So in the analogy that I'll use day in and day out is like when we go to the gym, like we can actually see those physical results, but only if we're going, consistently in our week or, planning it out. So we're going several weeks compounded, as you said, at a time to then finally see like, oh, there's a little baby muscle there that grew after 6 weeks of hard work or something like that. And something I mentioned with a guest the other day we were talking about was this sort of like failing forward,
Mm.
and kind of like, making the mistakes and falling down and, getting scraped up because that's what is going to happen, but using it like the lesson that you grow out of it to then build forward with it.
I love that. I think something too that's important is to know when enough is enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because you can be just as happy building a business and bringing 3 to 5K a month, no overhead, versus a 6-figure business and you're managing a team. So, like, really knowing what your heart and soul wants is crucial because I remember I used to feel so guilty about doing normal things like watching Amazon or watching movies with my husband or just like not working on the weekends or not doing social because I thought I had to work to get to the next level.
Wow. So it was like a guilt that it was almost like you felt like you had to put 100% of yourself into business building, but then
Yeah.
where does that leave Heather building?
Right.
Where does that
Right.
leave relationship building with your partner? Where does that leave, that kind of it really unbalances the scale.
Yeah.
But I can see how that, how when you're starting, you want to go full force into something because that feels like what
You're supposed to
you're
do.
supposed to do. Yeah. How did you like really kind of realize that full force, like sitting down and watching Netflix and not feeling guilty to spend time with your partner or to spend, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what was it for you that you're like, "Oh wait, I got to take a step back and realize I need to put time into me as well."
Well, I think if you step away from your business, like I would travel, I would be like traveling or I'd take a day off and I'd see new people emailing, say they wanted PR services. Like things would just happen and I wasn't doing anything.
Got it. Okay.
So
So,
like giving space for things to happen.
mhm. And I think that's like kind of what you were saying, like, or it goes back to what you were saying, like the ability to say no, like the
Yeah.
ability to turn something down. Like you actually have to be able to not only understand that you eventually will have that power, but learn how to flex that power appropriately as well.
I think you just have to follow your intuition.
Hmm.
Like I typically just follow my intuition for big decisions. I like if I'm going to make a big purchase, I'll have 3 key people that I could hire and then make a decision based on who's the best fit out of those 3. But a lot of it is intuition. Like if I want to do something or opportunities. Now, if it's a big investment, I have a process. I have 3 people I could potentially hire, and then I choose the one. But a lot of it is just living like, does this feel good? Does this not? But then also, is this activity going to get me closer to my goals?
Hmm. I like that a lot. So there's like a few pieces that you have to kind of put in there, but intuition is super important too. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think that is also like, I mean, we want to think of intuition as like it just comes to us, but I think tuning in to intuition might be a skill that we need to practice. I think
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think that some people might have more of a difficult time. Almost, it could come down to believing in yourself or believing that like you actually could have the gut feeling that is correct. And that could come from, so many different things in someone's past, so many different interactions, life experiences that might have like muted that for some people. But I couldn't agree with you more, like how important intuition is and just like listening to that, you know, inner voice or outer voice or wherever it might be coming from for you, to really lean into that and to use that. But again, it's a skill that I think that we might need to practice as well, because I know for sure I've definitely made decisions before that I'm like, wow, I should maybe I shouldn't have done that. Like I thought I
Yeah.
was doing the right thing, but it actually didn't turn out to be the right thing. But I totally agree with you. Like there's pieces of, intuitive practice in business practice as well.
I think like if you're hungry or you're irritable or if you worked out that day or if you did yoga, like those are things that can take away or help you feel aligned.
Hmm. Tell me
So I think
more.
those key things. Well, like how are you showing up? Are you showing up like energetically charged? Are you distracted? Do you feel irritable? Like all of those things get in the way of how we make choices and decisions.
Hmm. I think that you're really tuning into something that's so important. That's why, I want you to expand as much as possible, because it it comes back to like your business will
Mm,
thrive if you're thriving. If
yeah.
right? I hope I'm correct in saying that. It seems like that's what I'm gathering from the conversation and all the conversations I'm having.
And your team, if you have employees in the team, and then also like if you have kids or whoever's in your circle, like everything is connected to one.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's the thing I think that is so important to remember.
Well, there's so much we could speak on, but I think it's so important too. I know we did a little bit of our pre-interview. We talked about a few different things we could talk about, and I want to hear a little bit about you as an entrepreneur, but like doing this nomadically. I think
Yeah.
I think that's just like a cool place to transition. I think that you have such a unique experience running a business, kind of from wherever you're choosing. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because I want listeners to hear that experience as well.
So I would say if there's anyone who wants to live a nomadic life and it's on your heart, you just need to do it. We lived 30 days in Bali, and Bali is incredible. There are so
Wow.
many entrepreneurs there and co-working spaces. For anyone that goes there, you really can live like a king or queen. Like you can get a massage every day. You can get your nails done. The food is fresh. The coffee is great. The people are beautiful. There's a lot of culture there. You got to go to Bali first.
Everyone hear that?
Go to
This could be you.
Yeah, so Bali is incredible, but we've been living full time in an airstream. And the benefit of the nomad life is you have less things and it gives you more room to really care about what matters. So instead of
Hmm.
having a big house or a lot of clothes or being stressed out what to wear, it's really a minimal life. Like you don't spend a lot of time doing your hair because you just don't want to, and you take fast showers because you're in a little tiny shower. So it's a very simple life that gives you way more time and energy to worry about things that matter, not necessarily the makeup and the clothes and all those like things.
Absolutely. No, I love what you're speaking on, because I think, again, we kind of brought it full circle. And like this was something that almost, is it fair to say that this was like calling you to live this
Mm,
this type of lifestyle? Was this something that you felt really drawn toward?
totally drawn towards, but then we also did a lot of research. Like
Hmm.
we knew we were going to do that, but we read articles, we watched every YouTuber, and then we made the decision and just did it.
Okay. Very cool. That's so interesting. And what about your employees? Because you have a
No?
pretty big team, or can I ask how many employees you have?
Yeah, we have 23.
Okay, so there's 23 other people that are working with Heather. So are they all living in different places? Are they in one location? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have an office that we got downtown, but everyone's virtual. We've
Okay,
been virtual since 2016.
amazing.
One of our tenets is we're results driven, not hourly driven. So
Okay.
we're very metrics and KPI focused, but that provides more opportunity to crush it, but have freedom, flexibility, work from wherever, just be themselves all the time instead of trying to figure out like how do I live life and be an employee and then try to be a wife or a partner or whatever. It's a very, I would say, results driven environment, but very flexible, supportive environment.
It seems like you were, you know, I could be making an assumption or a guess here, but you were seemed to be pandemic ready 4 years before everyone
Yes.
else.
Yeah,
Wow. So that, I mean, that I feel like that could have been such a huge piece of why you crushed it during the pandemic. Like you've been doing,
totally.
you already figured out that, you know, what we're all figuring out now in 2021 and 2022. We're like, wait a second, we all we're all trying to work from home or work from wherever because we can actually have these meetings virtually. You figured that out so long ago.
It's such a more fun life, you know, less stress, less worry about what your coworkers are wearing.
Mhm. I love that too. I love the um really stepping away from the materialism, and I think that's
Hmm.
such an awesome piece of what you're telling and what your story is. Like, you have really been able to just push, and I don't know what life might have been like before that for you, but I just think it's so cool because we all obviously there's a consumption around that, especially in the world that we're living today, and especially if you're going, into an office or seeing the same people every day, about wanting to put on a certain type of appearance when we all realize that we could actually wear pajama bottoms and a button up shirt.
Something so sobering that I heard from someone is that all the money in the world can't save you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an entrepreneur that was really sick with cancer, and then we can't take all of our things to heaven.
Mm.
So, you
Wow.
know,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
like
What is passed on with you? It's, if we're to take any guesses at all, we know it's not going to be the material things. It's going to be
right.
whatever's inside, the values, the morals, the spirit, those,
Yeah,
those non-tangibles. Those are both really, really, really powerful things to share. So I really appreciate that.
of course.
Yeah. Okay, so one more transition. Well, not so much transition, but we were talking about how you have, scaled and grown and you now have 23 employees. What is it like managing a team like that? And what are maybe like daily functions and also,
Yeah.
how you work as a leader? I just want to hear some of those things because you're at a place that I know a lot of people want to be able to scale their businesses to, but then, you get into those like leadership things, and that can feel really scary for people who might have only a one track mind as to what leadership could look like.
Yeah, it's super uncomfortable to be honest with people and say, hey, these were the metrics. This is the line of
Mm-hmm.
expectations and you're not meeting them. That's super uncomfortable, but you
Mm-hmm.
got to do it.
Right.
You really really do. And the interesting that I heard thing that I heard is I don't know how to describe it, but a lot of the issues that come up with like dealing with employees a lot of times can be like unresolved trauma or whatever. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like how they grew up and how their parents treated them or held them accountable or didn't hold them accountable
Mm-hmm.
shows up in their work life.
Right.
So it's super interesting. But I would say that's super interesting. And then from a leader perspective, I'm definitely the type of person that believes in you should be in the trenches. I'm a very hands-on leader in the trenches with them, doing the work, um, very accessible. I do one-on-ones every week with my team, but like definitely in the trenches.
Yeah.
I think you have to be in the trenches probably until you probably get like 3 to 5 million, but definitely in the trenches with them every single day. It's a very transparent environment, holding each other accountable, calling people out when they're not doing their best.
Right.
Um,
It's
yeah,
it so it really is a matter of you are there with them, and you
mm,
have to, that transparency is important. Just like whatever, kind of like whatever needs to be done, like you're going to do it in the most human way possible, but you also understand that like what the business needs, it's a balance of what the business needs
yeah,
and what your employees need.
yeah. because it's like really stepping into transformational leadership instead of transactional leadership. Transactional leadership would be asking your kid to make their bed and they don't do it, so you make their bed for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like really like transformational leadership is like teaching them to do it, holding them accountable. Well, why didn't you do it? And instead of just, hey, you didn't do it, and then doing it for them or cleaning up the mess. And that's hard.
I love that. So you said that was transitional versus transactional?
Transformational versus
Sorry,
transactional.
transformational versus
Yeah.
transactional. I love that. That's actually so important. What a great takeaway. That
Yeah.
that is in the analogy that you provided, like that makes so much sense. I think that that can be really helpful as well to think of it in that frame.
Even with your kids, or I
Hmm.
guess your partner or husband or wife or whatever, like if you ask them to do something and then you keep doing it, well, then why would they do it in the first place?
Right. Right. Wow, that is such an awesome, framework that I'm going to think about that well after this because I think that's
Yay.
such an important takeaway for sure. And anyone listening, I hope that you are taking notes because this is definitely high quality information that you're getting right now. Heather, we have about 5 minutes left, so I have a couple things that I want to do. First,
Mm-hmm.
I have three on the spot questions. They go
Huh?
with, they'll be just really quick off the top of your head. I kind of want to hear just what your quick answer is, and that is in regards to the three pieces that we spoke about in the beginning: development, decision making, and dedicating yourself to your purpose. And
Okay.
then I just want to hear your final thoughts, whatever you'd like to leave our listeners with today, whatever you think will be most powerful, and then you can tell everyone where they can find you.
Perfect.
All right. So the three questions. The first one is about development. Currently in your space right now, are you working more on personal development or professional development?
Both.
Both. You are just like me. I would have said both as well, but I've gotten quite a few guests to give me one or the other. Okay, both. So it really is a 50-50 split for you.
Yeah, because for since 2016, it's been all business, but it
Mhm.
can't be all business now. And it's interesting when you work from home, it's easy to get cocooned. But now that you're going out or you're at a restaurant, like you have to have conversations. You
Mhm.
have to be able to socialize versus like, oh, I can talk on my computer. I work from home. We kind of have to like get recalibrated to see people in real life.
Right. That's really true. Okay, so decision making. This one is a fun one. So,
Mhm.
do you make decisions more actively by choice or by guiding voice? And guiding voice can be intuition, like we talked about, or spirituality. So, are you making active decisions or being led towards decisions?
Being led towards decisions. But I'm also the type of girl that I'm at a restaurant, I'm like, should I get this dish or this dish? And
Hmm.
whichever their favorite is, I order.
Okay. All right. I like it. I love it. You really do. You're teetering the balance, teetering the line on the balance beam right now. I do the same thing. Okay. The final one is dedication to your purpose. Was that a singular moment in time for you that changed everything, or is that something daily that you have to continue to dedicate and rededicate to?
Daily.
Daily. I love it. I love it. That one seemed more definitive. That is the answer I'm getting from a lot of people too. Even though it seems like there can be this moment that transforms us, it's still a daily dedication to keep moving in your purpose. So,
It's
thank you.
kind of like
Yeah.
a daily promise. It's not a
Mm,
commitment, it's a promise.
okay. I love that. Do you want to speak a little bit more on that? We have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I would just say a promise, like a promise to yourself you won't break. But a commitment's kind of like, I guess I will.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. That's a great perspective as well. So a promise to yourself that you're gonna keep moving forward. You won't
Correct.
you won't break even if life breaks you down. You won't break
Correct.
entirely. Awesome.
Correct.
All right. So your final thoughts, whatever you think could be the most powerful to leave listeners with right now, or whatever you'd like to leave them with, and then you can let everyone know where they can find you.
Perfect. I would say definitely when it comes to growing your business or scaling, you need to find a mentor, but the mentor needs to be living the life that you want.
This is great, great, great information. But I haven't talked a ton about mentorship yet, and I think that's so important. Okay.
Yeah.
Any
So,
cool, yeah. Oh, please
real
go,
quick.
go, go.
So, here's the deal. Do you view yourself as single? Do you want to get married and have a bunch of kids? Like, what does that look like to you? Are you traveling? Are you a gypsy? Like, your mentor needs to be living a life that's where you want to be, because
Mm.
how someone shows up if they're just traveling full time versus someone who's looking for their soulmate and then wants to have a bunch of kids is way different. So you need to choose the path and mentor that's in alignment with who you want to be in 10 or 20 years.
That is so important. Everyone hear this loud and clear. So you really need to almost like craft who you want to become, and then find that person that's
Yeah.
doing exactly that to help get you there.
Yes.
That is so cool, so important. Any way to find them and like
Yeah. Instagram, LinkedIn, just search for them and reach out.
I love it. And we have that power now. That is what is the most incredible. And I think, I'm right now starting to learn about and tap into that power of social media, that like
Yeah.
you actually have everyone and everything like access right at your fingertips, and people actually do want to speak to you, but you need to be able
Yes.
to go and ask the questions or put yourself out there to like feel a little, squirm in your seat a little bit, or maybe feel uncomfortable to ask the question, but you're actually going to get the answers and the solutions that you're looking for. So awesome. Heather, finally, just let everyone know where they can find you. I want everyone to make sure that they can just go look at all of your sources, take a look at you and everything that you're doing. You've provided such rich conversation here, and I want everyone to continue to follow your story.
Yeah. So you can follow Publicity for Good or Heather DeSantis on social media. We post every day. I share photos behind the scenes of our pigs and our chicken and airstream. So you can follow me there.
Amazing. Heather, thank you so much. Heather DeSantis, everyone. And as I end all my podcasts, I'd like to leave you with let this be the moment. We will talk soon. Thank you again.
Thank you so